Hey guys, how's it going? It's Al. I'm going to take a look back on DraftKings at everything that happened in week 6. This is our recap, the autopsy, where we go back in and no matter how happy or how painful it is to look back at a week, we have to decide, were we right? Were we wrong? Where we were right? Were we lucky? Where we were wrong? Were we unlucky? Or was it a process mistake that we really need to evaluate and change moving forward? And there were certain things that happened on both sides of that this week. There was I made a really bad play on DraftKings in my head-to-head lineup, my main lineup that I need to address. I did some things really right in tournaments that I would like to address. And there was one spot, at least one spot, where I think we got massively unlucky with a player that we were overweighting, that I was talking about being overweight on all week long last week. And I gave you all the underlyings of why we were going to be overweight on the guy. And it just didn't work out in our favor. But I think it was 100% the right play. And we just got unlucky. Thank you guys. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We have finally reached the point. We've got our 4,000 hours here on the second channel. We've got over 1,000 subs. You guys, there's like 3,500 subs around there right now. Like, it's ridiculous, the amount of support that you guys have shown on this second channel. You guys are the hardcores that have come here to the second channel to watch the recap videos. So give yourselves a little pat on the back for being the more serious DFS players who don't just want to pound the table and say, give me the answers to the test, clown. You want to actually look back and see what I did right and wrong so that you can then apply that to your own game and try to get better on an every week basis. So let's start by looking at my best buys column on ESPN. Obviously, like the video, subscribe, bell, reply, click a damn thing. Here it is, best buys ESPN Plus piece. I know you can't get it if you're in Canada. I'm sorry. It's like the easiest paywall though in the world, because if you have Disney Plus, you probably have ESPN Plus also. Started with Deshaun Watson. He was really good. I got to get y'all a smash emote on Twitch. So, Deshaun Watson, smash. 28 of 37, 335, and 4 touchdowns with no interceptions, 35 DraftKings points, smash. Matthew Stafford, sucked. 19 of 31 for 223 and 1 touchdown and 1 interception for 13.32 DraftKings points. Basically the only quarterback that straight up failed on the week, and partially because they just ran the hell out of the ball and didn't need him to throw for touchdowns, even though Jacksonville is a team that we want to attack with quarterbacks. It's kind of an anomaly. I do think that we got a little bit unlucky here that they ran the ball so many times every time they got into the red zone. So it is what it is. If you want me to take an L on Stafford, fine. I don't really care because everything else kind of smashed in Best Buy. So I don't think this is the L that you want me to take, but whatever. Ryan Fitzmagic, he's a madman. He was still firing 50 yards downfield in the fourth quarter when they were up 24 you could just hand the ball off to Gaskin. On the 5-yard line, 3rd and 1, he drops back and fires at his third string tight end right through the dude's hands because he threw it 80 miles an hour. I mean, I know you can't throw a football 80 miles an hour, more like 50 or 55 miles an hour. You see what I'm doing here. Guy couldn't even get his hands up in time. Just hand the ball to Gaskin, who's tearing him to shreds. Anyway, Fitzmagic ended the day with 3 touchdowns, 18 DraftKings points. He was fine. 3x. We'd rather have 4x out of a quarterback, but he's fine. Minshew, 6,400, 25 of 44, 243, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, 20.12. He was fine. Joe Burrow, 5.4K. He almost 4x, so he was more than fine. 313 yards on 39 attempts, 25 attempts, no touchdowns, 1 interception. When that efficiency goes up, when his guys actually get into the end zone, this kid's going to absolutely be a monster for fantasy. For as many times as he's throwing the ball and as many times as he's approaching or exceeding the 300-yard bonus on DraftKings, he had 20.72 for 5.4K. That's more than enough. I think he was unlucky. Okay, he was both. He was unlucky that T. Higgins got tackled on the 1. He was lucky that he ended up rushing in a touchdown on 3rd and 1. We'll get to the rushing touchdowns on the Bengals in just a minute. Alexander Madison was outmanned and outgunned. He blew his shot. What a enter Hamilton song here. 10 of 26, 1 catch on 2 targets, 4 yards, 4 DraftKings points. This was a mistake on DraftKings for me, not on FanDuel, where there was a 2K difference between Derrick Henry and Alexander Madison. But on DraftKings, there are 100 different. Now in tournaments, I had 30+% of both of them. But you'll see later, I had him in my cash game line, but it should have been Henry. That was just a mistake on my, like, whether it's take lock, or whether it's just I fell for that matchup, whether it was, I do feel that he got game scripted out of this one because Kirk Cousins threw a bunch of interceptions early. Atlanta capitalized on those mistakes, put them down 14, 20 points early in this game. And they kind of had to abandon the run, which made Kirk Cousins one of the tournament winning eligible quarterbacks on the day. This game stacks from Atlanta, Minnesota were all over the top of the leaderboard, as we'll get to in a little bit. So we got unlucky a little bit, but it was a big mistake to play him in cash on DraftKings. And that, you'll see, was the difference between the cash line was about 140 to be profitable yesterday in head-to-heads and 50-50s on DraftKings, and we could have gotten there if I just wasn't an idiot and played Henry over Madison, even though Henry had a top 1% of 1 percentile game outcome for him. Like 250 scrimmage yards is absurd. Nobody was going to say, oh yeah, I totally expected that. Like, no, you didn't. Like he was the right play and you got rewarded for making the right play. But like, it is what it is. Mike Davis didn't have a ridiculous day, did score a touchdown again. I was surprised by his usage in the passing game. 18 carries, got 20 touches, 52 yards from scrimmage on the ground. The Bears are a pretty good defense on the ground. We know that, but only 2 catches on 2 targets, completely out of line for the way that they run their offense. They were just kind of firing the ball at DJ Moore constantly yesterday. Still into a 12.5 DraftKings points. Didn't kill you. Myles Gaskin, I think we got unlucky here, partially because of the Mad Gunner approach from Fitz. He should have had the 100-yard bonus. They should have been trying to get him to that. They didn't. Had his 4 catches on 4 targets, has not had less than 4 catches in any game this year. Had 126 total yards from scrimmage, did not score a touchdown. Still 16.6 DraftKings points, 3x to salary. Joe Mixon is where we got massively unlucky. Joe Mixon had 10 touches in the first quarter. I don't know if you know this, but that's extremely rare. Right? 9 carries and 1 catch in the first quarter. He dropped a touchdown pass. Joe Burrow then snuck in on 3rd down for a touchdown. They also gave Gio Bernard 1 carry in the first quarter. He ran that in for a touchdown. They got up to a massive lead, and then Joe Mixon gets hurt and missed a quarter plus. Ended with 14.9 points. 18 carries, 54 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 catches, 3 targets, 15 yards, no touchdowns. 14.9 DraftKings points, 3% played, could have had 25 points in the first quarter of this game, should have had 25 points in the first quarter of this game. I think we got massively unlucky on a savage leverage play versus the field. It's unfortunate that that slipped through our hands. Ronald Jones had a tremendous day. 23 carries, 113, 2 touchdowns, 2 catches, 2 targets, 29.1 DraftKings points. Hopefully you went that route at 6K. David Montgomery, they did force feed him the ball, 19 carries, only 58 yards, did have 5 targets again, so that's encouraging moving forward, but could not find his way into the end zone on multiple inside the 5 carries against defense. It does nothing but just dump truck points at opposing running backs. So 13.7, it's fine. It's not thrilling. It's nice. Meh. Robbie Anderson, 11.7 points, only 5 targets in this game, 4 catches, 77 yards. Kenny Golladay did not have a massive day because, as I said, they ran the ball more than they threw it. Only had 6 targets. He got there for us with 17.5 DraftKings points. So, like, it's good output for the salary. But we got there on less volume than expected. 4 for 6, 105 and a touchdown. Just odd. No touchdown. So just kind of weird the way that he got there. Terry McLaurin, even with the bad matchup, saw 12 targets in this game against the New York Football Giants for the Washington football team. 7 catches, 12 targets, 74 yards. He's going to be a volume hound all year long. 14.4 DraftKings points in one of the toughest matchups in 2020 against Bradbury on the Giants. So he did exceptionally well. You can't get away from Bradbury going to the slot, which is what we said. He'll get flooded with targets. Maybe he'll be less efficient, but they can scheme to get him away from him, and they did. AJ Brown had a very, very good day. 5 catches on 7 targets for 56 yards and 2 touchdowns. The touchdowns are what carried this. He was just too cheap. we had to overweight him versus a field. T. Higgins had himself a very good day. Those 6 to 8 targets are coming every single week. 6 catches on 8 targets for 125, but no touchdowns as he went out inside the 5-yard line, 21.5 points. And it could have been an absolute smash against Indy, who, if you play the wide receiver that's not being guarded by Rhodes, you're probably going to have a good time. So that's the way that we're going to attack them, with wide receiver 2s probably moving forward. Tight ends, TJ Hawkinson bailed us out with a touchdown, had 5 targets. Again, the whole Lions passing game did not do what we thought from a volume perspective. They ended up just running the ball with Swift and with AP and everybody else. Only had 5 targets, caught 2 of them for 17 yards. Luckily, he did sneak into the end zone, so he salvaged it a little bit with 9.7 points, but not great. Trey Burton was my favorite tight end on the week. I had like 35% of him. He absolutely crushed it. 4 catches on 5 targets for 58 yards, which was basically all we needed from a volume perspective. But he threw in a rushing touchdown and a receiving touchdown, which pushed him up to 21.9 for 3K, which is an absolute smash. Mark Andrews greatly disappointed against Philadelphia. Now, Philadelphia is a team that we want to stream tight ends against, and they did give up a touchdown to a tight end, but it was Boyle and not Andrews. So no salvage here for us. 4.1 DraftKings points. Eric Ebron, 2 catches, 4 targets, 2.9. That's a miss. But again, we were prioritizing Trey Burton for all the reasons that we were talking about before. He was just way too cheap. Baltimore Ravens, 7 points. Giants, 14. Dolphins, 15. Taking a quick look at my 3 lineups on DraftKings, as I said, Madison over Henry at this spot was a massive mistake, and it just ended up killing me. No matter how much you got game scripted out, no matter how much anything else, if you played Henry over Madison, you made the money on DraftKings in cash games. If you didn't, you didn't. Everything else was kind of fine. Stafford was disappointing based on the fact that every other quarterback in that price range kind of had 20 points, but that 7 points missing is not going to kill you as much as the 50 points or the 40-point difference between Madison and Henry is going to kill you. This lineup scoring 118, so that would have pushed me up over the 140 mark. I would have had 155, 160, easily cashing the majority of head-to-heads. I ended up losing like 75% of head-to-heads on DraftKings yesterday. Thielen, disappointing, but fine. Galladay, fine. Claypool, fine. Burton, great. Gaskin, fine. Vikings defense, meh. Taking a look at those 3 lineups that I had, none of them cashed in the 333, so high stakes was a bust for me this week in the Wildcat. But this is the World Championship, same idea. This was the qualifier. You needed to be in the top 10 to pay this, but like, who cares about coming in the money in a qualifier? I'm shooting for first place, so like, I'm going for stacks or double stacks with bringbacks and secondary stacks at other spots in the lineup to try and get me to certain places that I want to get to, and that's what we're looking at doing there. Taking a look at the Millionaire Maker, my 150 was kind of good in terms of top 5% outcomes, top 1% outcomes. I had one finish in the 64th place in Millionaire Maker, was my highest finish of the week with 235. Cousins, Henry, Taylor, Ridley, Jefferson. This was the best way to get off of the chalk in the Minnesota side, right? So there were 2 ways to do it. Everybody knew that there was going to be a high percentage of people on Madison, and everybody knew that there was going to be a high percentage of players on Thielen. So usually the easiest way to leverage a play is if everybody's playing the running back, you play the wide receiver quarterback combo. But if everybody's going to be stacking up on the wide receiver and the running back from that team, the ways to get away from it is stack the quarterback with the wide receiver too, or stack the other side. So Matt Ryan lineups with double stacks, whether it was Hurst, Julio, or Ridley, all performed really well, and you bring it back with the wide receiver 2 on Minnesota, which was Jefferson, and that takes you off of the 2 most high percentage plays on the one team, which is Minnesota, and you leverage the hell out of the field by doing so. So 9.2% on Jones, 26% on Derrick Henry. Had this week where we came kind of close, but obviously you got to finish first or it doesn't even matter when it comes to the Millionaire Maker. Here's the Deuces Wild on FanDuel. I cashed one of the 2 lineups. Here were the 2 lineups on FanDuel. One did not do well. The other one did do well. The one that did not do well was Stafford with a double stack. Brought it back with James Robinson, who did kind of okay. Went with the Patriots defense in this one, who I thought had a massive advantage going up against Drew Lock. That did not pan out for us. Devontae Adams and Rojo was the secondary stack here. This one, Kirk Cousins to Thielen with Ridley coming back. Trey Burton was a standalone. I felt that he was way too cheap and even underplayed on FD. Got rewarded with the multiple touchdowns. Devontae Adams also to Ronald Jones. That didn't. That secondary stack didn't pay off. Myles Gaskin was a standalone for me, as was Jonathan Taylor. You could say that there's correlation with the defense. I had Miami's defense in this one as well. You can't see it. They're behind me right now. But that is what it is there. Looking at the cage match, I believe that I have been favored 6 straight weeks in the cage match. 6 straight weeks. That's impossible to come out of the draft and be favored every single time. And I've lost the last 4. It's absurd. I feel like I'm getting absolutely unlucky in these. I had Madison. He didn't pan out. Mike Davis, 12.5 snowflake. Robbie Anderson, snowflake. AJ Brown, Burton were great. Dolphins defense was great. Gaskin was outstanding. Galladay was fine. This is what hurt me, but what really hurt me was Scott had his first 2 picks as Cousins and Jefferson, which I thought was a process mistake, but it doesn't matter when those 2 guys post 70 plus points for you. If you get 70 plus points out of your first 2 picks, you're doing great. Rojo crushed it for him. Robinson, great. McLaurin, fine. T. Higgins was his pivot off of Deontay Johnson, who was out. Awesome. Andrews missed. Phillip Lindsay was fine. Every spot in his lineup crushed except for Mark Andrews. He ended with 184. I ended with 135. So I got to donate $100 to the American Heart Association. I'm happy to do so. Thank you guys for watching all the content throughout week 6. Look forward to all the content on the main channel for week 7. It will be coming out very soon. And watch one of the other videos on the second channel right.
He's a legend.